welcome to class. This is Leadership 811, In-Depth Exploration of Organizational Behavior. Well, I'd like to start the class by welcoming you here, and I'm glad to see that you were able to find the class and find your way into the opening lecture. So, I'd like to give you a little preview about what we're going to be talking about here. This is basically an introduction and overview of the class. Now, those of you who've had a lot of classes at Kaiser will find some of the information already well known and a bit redundant. But I'd just like to make sure that we're on the same page, so if there are any questions or issues that come up later during the class, that you feel like you have had information and adequate preparation for those issues as they come up. I'd like to, in the very beginning, say that you are welcome to call me or email me or use the Ask Questions feature of the classroom. Anytime you have a question, I will get back to you as quickly as possible. So we're going to move right along, and I'll be introducing both the syllabus as well as the Blackboard class to you. We're going to start out where I always encourage students to start out, by going to the home page. The home page is where you'll see if there are any new announcements in the class, and as you can see here, there is an announcement. So every time you go into visit your classroom, go to the home page first to see if there might be a new announcement. Now, when I put the announcements together, usually I do include an email that goes with it. However, sometimes I forget, but the announcement will always show up in the class. And you see we have a welcome to class, and that will bring you to your first announcement, where again there's a brief introduction. And in that introduction I say that a video is worth many words of writing, and so consequently I've found in the past that these video sessions that I put together are kind of a preparation for what's coming next. It's not telling you what's already happened, it's preparing you for what's going to be upcoming. And so for the class itself, this is the introduction and overview video. There will also be a week 1 video that will talk about your assignments for week number 1. So every week you'll have a video that introduces the material for the week and also the assignments that you're expected to do. And I encourage you, in fact I require you to watch these videos. If you say, well, I was just decided I was going to do it without watching the video, so I didn't get that information, that is not an acceptable answer. These videos are here for your benefit, to help you focus in on the things that I'm looking for, and they're to my benefit, so when I'm looking at your assignments that you're working on what I want you to work on. Okay, enough said. Then we can meet your professor, and here is the biographical information, but also my contact information with my email address at Kaiser, as well as my cell phone number, which also has text messaging features. I live up in Melbourne, so you'll see the 321 area code. I'm on Eastern Daylight Time at this point, so depending on where you're located, you can kind of judge whether it's an appropriate time to call. I had a student recently that was stationed in Hawaii, and we had to kind of work out when was a good time for him to call me, and vice versa. Okay, so there's all the information you should need to be able to get in contact with me. Next, we're going to move on and look at the syllabus. And this is sort of the standard Kaiser syllabus, and a lot of the information is just boilerplate information. But specifically, the textbooks that we'll be using this course are Leading with Communications by Gamble and Gamble, Managing in Organizations by Clegg, Kornberger, and Pittas. You'll need your publication manual for the American Psychological Association, which has all your APA formatting rules. But more importantly, and I'll tell you this right up front because this is going to be a little bit different than maybe some of your other classes that you've had, more important than the textbooks are going to be the peer-reviewed articles in the online library. And I want to just jump ahead a little bit here, and I'll show you what's coming up in week number 1. There are 4 articles that are associated with the material that we're going to be looking at to start out the class. There's an article by Bennis that was written back in 1959. There's a Cullinan and O'Reilly and Chapman article. There's a Griffiths article. There's a Sudby, Greenwood, and Wilderon article also. Now, what you'll be seeing is the assignment questions, especially with regard to the discussion posts, are going to be based upon these readings, are going to be based upon you going into the library, finding the articles, reading the articles, and answering the questions related to these articles. And the purpose of this is to get you more used to using the online library as a basis of both your writing your papers as well as your discussion posts. And so we'll be focusing in on these four for the first week's discussion. Next, we're going to look at the grading system. This is the standard Kaiser Graduate School grading levels. A, B, and C. 70% and above to 79 is a C, 80 to 89 a B, and 90 to 100 is an A. You must get at least 70% to pass the class. Also, what are called events, or the assignments that are going to be graded, will be the threaded discussions, the papers that are due. I'd like to spend just a moment or two talking about the threaded discussion. Now, you'll be getting more information about this as we get into the first week's assignment, but basically, rather than having 8 weekly discussion threads that you work on, we're going to have 4 bi-weekly or 2-week discussion threads. The total amount of weight or a grade given to the discussion post will still stay the same, still 20%, but we're going to be talking about the same subject over a 2-week period of time rather than a 1 week. You're going to still have to post at a minimum of 8 times, but my feeling in expanding the length of the discussion period will allow us to dig into these topics more deeply rather than simply a couple of posts and then we're done and moving on to the next one. Now, this is a little bit brief for a change in the normal protocol, but I'll be talking about this more when we get to the week 1 assignment. And as you can see after that, it's a regular, almost weekly routine of turning in a paper. Now, these are not your 25 to 30 page papers. These are 3 to 5s and 5 to 7s. Late assignments are penalized. This is in the effort to keep everybody working on schedule and paying attention to the deadlines. Work has to be turned in within the week that it's assigned by Sunday midnight to receive full credit. When it comes in after that time period, you can be charged up to 50% depending on how late it is. If you think you're going to have a problem getting your work in on time and you think you have a good reason, I'm not even going to give any examples, but if you think it's a good reason, get in touch with me ahead of time. Tell me what the situation is. Let's work out a schedule and avoid the penalty. But it's up to you, the student, to take the responsibility to look at your circumstances, look at your schedule, look at your conflicts, and come to me and say, Professor, I think if I had a few more days, I could get this done. I would prefer quality work turned in a little bit late than poor quality work turned in on time. Finally, at the very end of the syllabus, there's a little section on plagiarism, which means copying from somebody else, and the incomplete policy. Now, these are 2 separate things, but just to bring them to your attention, plagiarism is to be avoided. If you are caught copying somebody else's work or turning in some other work, a paper that you didn't write, that's a pretty bad offense. Unintended plagiarism, where you wrote something in your paper but forgot to put a reference to it. Again, we'll catch that with our software. We'll bring it up in our grading, telling you pay attention to this. But the whole purpose is, again, to have you focus on writing original work, using references correctly, staying away from taking something that you wrote in another class and turning it in, this time verbatim. Okay. The other policy that bears talking about, because it turned into a little problem recently, is the incomplete policy. So if you are approaching the end of the class, week 8, and you have some outstanding work that you will not be able to finish by the time class is over, you may apply for what we call an incomplete. And what the incomplete does is it gives you an extra 4 weeks, starting with the beginning of the next class, to turn in the work for the current class that you're applying for the incomplete. There are a couple of restrictions. First of all, you cannot be on AFAW. Our old term for that was probation. You have to be in good standing. You do have to talk to your instructor, me, before this happens. After the fact is no good. And you do have to complete the work within 4 weeks. If you do miss the deadline, and it's your responsibility to turn in the work before the deadline is up, If you miss the deadline, basically there's no second chance. Well, there's always a second chance, but it has to be a fairly significant event. You were in the hospital, you were put on active duty, something that, again, can be verified and documented that you have a good reason for not being able to finish your work. Simply saying my computer was broken, well, for 4 weeks you should go out and buy another computer, I guess. Okay, so any questions on that, please get in touch with me and make sure that you're comfortable and understand the policy. Next thing we're going to look at is the Ask Questions. This is the first way to get in touch with me. If you have something you want to know that affects the entire class, there's no better way than writing in the Ask Questions. I will respond and everybody else will be able to see what the answer to your question is. For this particular class, it's set up slightly differently, so what we want you to do is go to the Ask Questions, but then create your own thread and write your question in that thread. I will respond within that thread. And this is kind of a neat way of doing it because it means that every question will get its independent answer and they won't start stacking up on top of each other as do when you are using just one thread. Okay? Any questions on that? Again, just ask me. Now we're going to go back and look at the class items, and a good place to start is at Start Here. You'll notice for this class right now we have 4 items. We have a quick click to get into the Kaiser library, which is going to be very important for working with the assignments in this class. The call log you don't have to worry about. The discussion rubric is a basic layout of the criteria that we use to grade your discussion posts, and the paper rubric is a layout of the criteria that we use to grade your papers. Okay? And that's a little bit helpful because if you look at those, you'll see basically what I'm using to judge how good your paper is. Over the next few weeks, there'll be more things showing up in the Start Here section. I'll make an announcement and say there's now a video related to this in Start Here. There's a video related to that in Start Here. I will not put the weekly assignment videos in Start Here. These are more for things like a video about using Safe Assign, a video about writing scholarly papers, etc. Things that are more general than specific week assignments. Okay? Yes, there will be more items added here. Good reminder. Now we're going to take a quick look at the assignments. This is the week 1 assignment, and this is where I want you to go to find out what you need to do. You'll notice that I've removed a lot of the details for the assignments from the syllabus because I want you to come into the class, use the week assignments that are written into the class to do your work. Because what you'll find there is not only new assignments that I'm adding or redoing, but you'll also have a weekly assignment video which will explain the assignments in more detail and give you more examples of how I want you to approach the particular assignment. This has turned out to be very successful in my past classes. Students appreciate that I go through the assignment in detail and tell them exactly what I expect. Okay, so this is the week 1 assignment. And to watch the video, you simply push the Watch Video button. The keys to success for this class in the first week. First of all, get all your reading materials in order. If you don't have your textbooks, order them. If you don't know how to use the online library, ask me. But you're going to need both of these. Look ahead to the schedule and the requirements. When are the papers due? What are they going to be on? You should be able to use some of your research that you're doing for your discussion posts in future papers. And especially manage your time. When I review your papers and your discussions, I'll be providing you with feedback, telling you what I thought you did well, what I thought you needed to improve on. And I hope that you see this as a chance to strive for improving your performance in all aspects of the class from a week-to-week basis. This class may be slightly different than some of your other classes, so don't make a lot of assumptions. Just because this class has the characteristics of other classes, don't assume everything is the same. So ask questions. Don't assume that everything is going to be the same as other classes. You can use the Ask Questions. You can use the email. You can phone me. You can text me. I will answer the questions as quickly as I can. Don't find yourself like this other fellow here with a lot of questions. And finally, think of this class as going on a great adventure. And until next time, goodbye and good luck.